Here's a little tutorial video to help you solve for the missing parts of a right triangle, and we're going to use our SOHCAHTOA method. So before you start anything, you might want to remind yourself by writing SOHCAHTOA across the top of your paper. And if you remember, S stands for the sine of the angle, opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine A over H, adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent of your angle, opposite over adjacent. So the crucial part of this worksheet and these examples is remembering to, first of all, start at the angle and then determine opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse from there. So in example 1, we have a 50-degree angle. So that's where we'll put our little reminder figure. Across from the 50 is x, so that'll be your opposite. Here's your right angle. The hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. So we have OH, so that is the sine ratio. We always put the degree or the letter of the angle right next to sine, cosine, tangent. So sine of 50 equals opposite over hypotenuse. To solve this, we want to cross multiply, so let's have it in a proportion. Put that over 1. When you cross multiply, this number that you're multiplying by should always go in front. So you have 18 times the sine of 50 equals x. You can type that straight into your calculator. Make sure you've put your calculator in degree mode first. So 18 sine 50, and you come out with an answer of about 13.8 for x. So let's do example 2. So here's our angle that we're given, the 20-degree angle. We never use the right angle. So there's your 20-degree angle. So from there we can make an abrupt right turn, so that would be an adjacent side. We don't have to go across the triangle, so we have adjacent. And then we have across from the right angle, hypotenuse. So we have AH, that is cosine. So again, the degrees is what goes right next to sine, cosine, tangent. So cosine 20 equals 10 over x. Again, put this over 1 so that you can see you have a proportion to cross multiply. So just like the number, 18 in this example, the x will go in front of the cosine of 20 equals 10. Something that might help you to remember that cosine of 20 is actually a number is put this in parentheses. You cannot separate the cosine and the 20. Okay, that is a number. If we type that in the calculator, you'd get a decimal. So in order to get x alone, since this is a multiplication problem, we divide by the cosine of 20. So 10 divided by cosine of 20, and x is about 10.6. In these next two examples, we're going to be using trigonometry to find an angle. So here's our missing angle, x. So we'll put our figure here. Again, we go across from the x, so that's the opposite. And then we have the other leg, and the other leg has to be adjacent. A leg will never ever be a hypotenuse. So the legs can only be the opposite to the angle or the adjacent. So we have OA, that would be our TOA, part of SOHCAHTOA, so that's tangent. Since we don't know the angle, now we have a variable, x. Tangent of x equals 5 over 8. And if you remember from our warm-ups, since we're finding the angle, this is where we use the inverse function on the calculator. So you use your second key. So you'll have second tangent, so it'll look like that. In parentheses, you can put 5 divided by 8. You can do the math just as it is. You don't have to get the decimal first. And when you multiply that out, you get 32 degrees. So finding an angle is a little bit less complicated than finding a side. Fewer steps. In example 4, we're trying to find the angle here. So we go opposite. And then this is 15 is across from the right angle, which makes it the hypotenuse. So OH, the SO part of SOHCAHTOA, so sine of x equals 10 over 15. Again, we're finding an angle, so we use second sine. So you'll see sine to the negative 1 there. 10 divided by 15. That will equal x. And when you do that on your calculator, you can round to the nearest tenths place, so 41.8 degrees. Let's try two more side examples. So here we have the angle of 48 degrees. So we'll put our little stick figure there. The x is across from the right angle, so that's your hypotenuse. And then for the 7, we could do an abrupt turn there and be right next to the 48, so that's the adjacent. So AH, so CA, C-A-H, so cosine of 48 equals 7 over x. So put cosine 48 over 1. Multiply. I'll do that down here so you can see better. So x times the cosine of 48 equals 7. Again, this is one where you want to maybe put this in parentheses so you remember cosine of 48 is a number all by itself. So divide by cosine of 48 to get x alone. And x is about 10.5. So the key is starting at the correct angle, picking out opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, setting up the correct ratio. So the last example are 35 degrees. This is where we start. We go across the triangle, so 30 is opposite. X is one of the legs, so then that must be the adjacent side. So OA, TOA, tangent. So the tangent of 35. Again, always an angle would go next to sine, cosine, tangent. You never leave that sine, cosine, tangent alone without a number. So opposite over hypotenuse, tangent of 35 over 1, cross multiply. Again, put the parentheses there so you know that's one single number. Divide by tangent of 35. And you get x is about 42.8. So hopefully writing all those down, making sure you label opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, this will give you a little extra help on solving for missing parts of a right triangle.